Hello and welcome to Vault 33, a podcast for Amazon Prime's Fallout. We are your hosts, Andrew Sarsini,
Dwayne D,
and Tosin Andrew.
We just watched the 6th episode of the second season of Fallout entitled The Other Player. We assume you have as well. Total spoilers ahead. Let's dive into the after talk. But before we do, you can follow us on Twitter or Blue Sky at Fallout Vault 33. Add us on iTunes, Spotify, and other streaming services. Like us, leave us a review. That's how we get noticed. But as always, the best way to help us out is spread the word. Word of mouth. Tell your friends. This episode is written by Dave Hill, who has previously written episodes of Game of Thrones and Wheel of Time, and directed by...
I love that Wheel of Time.
Yeah, I know you. You're a fan. And directed by Lisa Joy, who is the executive producer of Fallout and has previously co-executive produced Westworld along with...
Jonathan
Nolan. Thank you for... yeah. Because I want to say Jonah, because that's what friends call him, Jonah.
Jonathan Jono.
So yeah,
that should be his celebrity nickname, Jono.
And Lisa Joy is a formidable presence in Kilter Films properties. I think she's like a major creative force, and I'd love to talk more about later on when we get into the extra textual stuff, the technical aspects. I want to talk about why I think she was the perfect person to direct this episode. But Dwayne, why don't you give us a recap of this episode?
Sure thing. So we open with Barb in a conference room in Vault-Tec before the Doom. She's going over advertising creative with her marketing team, and a young Betty, the current overseer of Vault 33, is in there taking notes. In anticipation of nuclear war, the marketing department is showing Barb aesthetics of different sized bomb blasts in order to sell more vault space to more consumers before war breaks out. Her engineering team tells her that since the vault water systems only have a 70% success rate, she gets to choose which 30% of the vaults will die by thirst. Barb manages to be both unflappable and visibly disturbed at once. A youthful Hank McLean comes into the office to take notes on the meeting between Barb and Robert House, the actual Robco's CEO lookalike and body double. Robco shows off the new mind control computer called the Automated Man that they're exchanging for the Vault-Tec developed cold fusion diode. Barb is unaware of what the Robco people need the cold fusion for, but the show makes it clear that she's doing this all for her family. Later that day, Barb and Cooper are in their bedroom in the hotel room in Vegas, where he confronts his wife about what he thinks is her desire to end the world in order for Vault-Tec to make money. Barb tells Cooper that she knows more than he knows, and that he shouldn't walk away from her, that she's doing what she can to save their daughter, and that there are worse people out there than she is. Cooper implores her to think about all the other mothers and all their daughters. When Barb says she's focused on only protecting Janie and Cooper, Cooper's relatively disgusted. Barb relates a story to Cooper about how, after meeting with Robco, she asked Betty to get her all of the info she could about the cold fusion diode, where it was stored at Vault-Tec. As Barb headed into the elevator, she was confronted by Siggy Wilzig, the same Enclave scientist who hid the fusion diode in his own head from Fallout Season 1. He was in the elevator with Barb, younger and with his head still intact. He told Barb that she couldn't or wouldn't explain to Cooper that Barb is just a cog in the machine, that, Vault-Tec exists and she's part of Vault-Tec, and by extension, she's part of the end of the world. If she doesn't perform her role, she won't be able to save her family. We learn why she's forced to say that the only way to guarantee results is by dropping the bomb themselves. And when she's done relating that story, Cooper asks who threatened her, and she refuses to tell him. Barb doesn't know who controls Vault-Tec, and Cooper is unhappy with that answer. He leaves Barbara, going back down to the casino, because remember, they're still in Las Vegas. Meanwhile, Lucy wakes up in a clean and tidy bed in Observation Room 7 in the Vegas vault. She comes across Legion soldiers, and right as she's about to strike them, it's revealed that Hank has controlled them with the Robco Automated Man computer. She comes across a workroom where all the employees are being controlled by Automated Man computers, working in sync to create new Automated Man computers for other people. Lucy comes into a simulation room and finds her father. They talk. Hank remarks that the humans on the surface are fighting for no reason, and that his machines will stop the petty bickering, allowing humanity to unite for a common cause. Lucy attacks her father, and he surrenders to her, saying that He destroyed Shady Sands to protect her and to protect Norm. As Lucy escorts her father out of the building, they pass by the automated man production floor, and the good people working on making computers are disturbed at seeing Lucy holding up scissors to Hank's neck. Hank tells them not to worry since his daughter is in pursuit of justice, and they all like justice. They nod agreeably, and Lucy asks where he found all these people. Hank's answer is all over. That so many people need their help. He turned murderers and rival tribe members of the wasteland into productive members of his little vault society. When the snake oil salesman brings 2 untamed rival Legion warriors in and asks how he should handle him, Hank defers to Lucy, and she says that they should just let them go. When the attendants cut the warriors loose, the warriors cause havoc on the orderly work floor and put everyone in danger. One of the 2 Legion warriors finally attacks Lucy, and she can barely hold him off, while he viciously attacks the other Legion member, driving office staples into his forehead. Lucy presses the button on the machine, and the 2 men instantly stop their hostilities and begin to talk cordially, all their arguments forgotten, and suddenly help each other out. We meet Maximus and Thaddeus in the desert nearby Area 51. Fearing that they'll be tracked by the Brotherhood via the powered armor suit they fled with, they leave it behind. They still have the sacred remnant, the fusion diode. Thaddeus wants to sell it, while Maximus sees it as a great responsibility to hold and keep from the Brotherhood and other organizations. They debate selling the fusion diode, and Maximus says he wants to give it to a good person. Thaddeus believes that there are no good people. Back in Vault 33, Reg's inbreeding support group is very popular since it's the only real way to get food and snacks. They're becoming exclusive. We see a vision of how Reg sees himself, and it's one where he's a popular host putting on a party filled with happy people. He's a great pianist, and life is basically a folksy musical. But in reality, he's using one finger to play Mary Had a Little Lamb on the piano that's out of tune, and people are just standing around and eating. Nobody cares that he's there. The group, again, is popular, but he's not. The party's broken when Betty comes in, and she tries to explain with her riot guards, and she tries to explain that the resource crunch that Vault 33 is dealing with, the water is scarce, but the Vaulters don't want to hear it. Meanwhile, over in Vault 32, Woody is missing, and Chet is looking for the truth about that. Chet learns that he's engaged to Steph via a poster that she puts up in the halls. She never told him in person. Now, we find the ghoul right where Lucy left him, skewered to a pole. His satchel has fallen, and he's in need of his vials in order to keep from turning feral. He's there into the night and struggles to hold it together by using his memories of love and family to motivate him off the pole and over to his vials to heal himself. But he fails. As Cooper slips into feralness, he's taken off the pole by a powerful creature. The ghoul awakens in a lair of a beast. It's a super mutant that's got the industrial capacity to dole out chunks of kryptonite-looking uranium. He places a chunk of the uranium inside the ghoul where it heals him so that he's prepared for the war that the super mutant thinks is coming. The super mutant believes that he and the ghouls are related kin, and they should unite against the common enemy, the Enclave. The ghoul claims that he does things alone, and the super mutant says that's fine, but he's going to need friends in order to get his family back. Since he won't join them, the location must remain concealed. So the super mutant knocks the ghoul out. As the ghoul's dragged out of the super mutant's lair, he remembers what happened after he left Barb in their casino hotel room all those years ago. He went back down to the casino floor and got a young Vault Tech junior manager named Hank McLean drunk. He brought Hank back upstairs to their suite and drugged him so that Hank would pass out. Once Hank was down, Cooper found a super syringe thing in a case that was handcuffed to Hank's arm. Barb happens upon Cooper and the passed out Hank, syringe in hand, and takes a super syringe from Cooper. She injects it into Hank's neck, where it extracts the fusion diode into the super syringe. We then jump to Dogmeat in the present. Siggy Wilzig and the Ghoul's dog, finding Maximus and Thaddeus in the desert. They follow the pooch as it runs off, and it takes them back to their current guardian, the Ghoul, recovering from his ordeal with the pole and the super mutant who removed him from there, and he was unconscious. Maximus and the Ghoul are not exactly happy to see one another, but Thaddeus, he's downright friendly. That's the episode.
Well, we know that why Thaddeus is friendly, right? He's
like another Ghoul. Hey, man.
Well, he's like, I know who you were with previously.
Yes.
My supposedly my hopeful girlfriend. But anyway, there's quite a lot there in that episode, huh?
I know it's but you know what? It was done a little less as a dump than I feel like some of the other ones have been in this season. There's a lot of obviously a lot of backstory, a lot of lore was happening.
Yeah.
I'm glad we learned a little bit more about Barb and why she said the only way to, ensure results is to drop the bomb ourselves, because she was forced to by Siggy
Right.
Wilzig, who was previously a hero and might be a villain. So the plot kind of thickens again.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel super mystery boxy, which was nice. But for me, the plot lines were crazy in this episode. Right?
Yeah.
Normally a TV show that's like prestige has like maybe 3 plot lines going on, right? This happened a lot in like Game of Thrones or whatever. In this particular episode, we have the New Vegas wasteland with the ghoul.
Yeah.
We have the desert with Maximus and Thaddeus. We have the Vault 33 plotline with Betty and Reg. And the Vault 32 plotline with Woody, Steph, and Chet. And Vault 32 and Vault 33 are related, but they're distinct plotlines. Meanwhile, the Las Vegas Vault plotline, where Lucy is with Hank McLean. That's 5 plot lines in one episode, and it didn't even touch the Norm Ron McCurtry cliffhanger that we had last week. So I'm just like blown away at how they were able, like Tosin, you just said, there's a lot here. They were really able to kind of move between these storylines, which we know are all going to come together, and they're all related. But still, it was wild.
Yeah, I thought they did a really solid job weaving between those storylines.
Yes.
And some of the things we talk about later, going from one scene of someone who's dreaming to another scene, they made such parallels that I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about in our salient points. But I really enjoyed this episode. What about yourself, Andy? What did you think?
Yeah, no, this episode to me, like, and I'll get into it a little bit more, but I'll just touch upon it a little bit now, is that I think the reason that this episode had such a beautiful flow and a nice balance to it is I'm crediting Lisa Joy as the director, especially with the...
There's a pun with her name in it right there somewhere.
Yeah, well, especially with all of the past experience that she's had with Westworld, because Westworld...
All those plot lines,
exactly, right? But like how elegant were those? Even when they were deliberately trying to like obfuscate things, it was always pretty. It always had a nice, elegant flow to it. So I think we see that here in this episode. So this episode was a treat for me. Really a delight.
Yeah, I think you can't. So first of all, I remember seeing the movie Logan and loving it. And you couldn't have Logan without the previous 8 or 7 Wolverine movies or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you still needed someone to wrap that story up. And so, you don't get to a point where you've got 5 plot lines going through a single 50-minute episode or whatever it is. Just overnight. You don't start that way.
No.
You can't. It'd be too confusing. But the fact that it's gotten to a point where you don't need a last time on Buffy to understand what's going on.
Right.
For anyone who doesn't know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a TV show that was infamous for doing like 7 minutes of what happened over the last 5 seasons to explain what was going to happen in this episode. You didn't need that. She managed to just like you said, weave it together, tie it together. And even though all these people are walking down their own different aisles, the narrative was related in a very hardcore way. So anyway,
I'll even say even the recap before this episode felt elegantly laid out. There was special attention.
Recap technology is done very well.
We got some salient points to talk about. Tosin, why don't you tell us about the title here, The Other Player?
Yeah, so the title is The Other Player. Now, we know that somewhat that's in reference to the potential other person or group that's in charge, but we don't know specifically. However, there's a lot of players in this episode, right? Barb can be considered another player. Each of these separate plot lines are other players. Even the mutant, the super mutant is another group or faction that we are trying to learn more about. So I think it just shows, as Dwayne put earlier, the various plot lines, the various players, the various people who are, coming to this casino to test their luck.
Yeah, I would also just throw in there that, last episode we got good foundation for the term the other player. Like, Robert House was like, there's someone, I don't know who he is. He's really in charge, Right. And that's like, I was out there. And in this episode, they kind of imply that it could be the Enclave, a group that most viewers probably forgot, because I certainly did. And and Siggy Wilsig returns, right? And I feel like, so between Barb not knowing who really runs Vault-Tec, but making all these decisions for Vault-Tec, so she's the day-to-day, but the true owners or runners are not there. And then like last episode where Robert House is like, I don't know who's in charge,
Right.
or I don't know who this player is. This idea of the other player, it's mystery building.
Yeah.
So I was moved.
So we're thinking
yeah,
that
good.
the other player is the Enclave or whoever runs the Enclave.
Right, it might be because we get exposed last episode to the idea that there's somebody that Robert House couldn't figure out back in the 2040s or whatever it was, and then we get exposed via the super mutant, the person who helped out the ghoul with the uranium, that the Enclave is a big bad that we haven't quite seen yet, which is funny because we have seen Enclave. We were exposed to the Enclave before. Right. It's just that it's so secretive that we didn't we forgot about it with everything else that was going on.
Yeah, totally.
So like we're doing the street level climb episode to episode, like Daredevil. Mm-hmm. The Enclave is doing Thanos level shit at the top of the universe.
Good analogies.
Right? Yeah. So the Enclave. I mean, all signs currently point to the Enclave. They certainly want us to think it's the Enclave, but you know how these shows are. They throw something else extra.
I love this whole opening, the prologue, because you get to see Barb. Barb had made the proclaimant, the proposition that they should basically do a first strike on the U.S. That you need to be offensive, an offensive strike in order to defend against everybody else. But and now that you've got the whole Vault-Tec marketing team in place, like running the apocalypse, you can see on her face how, like, what that actually means, what it actually means to
hold that weight, right?
To actively
execute this shit.
To actively plan the apocalypse of the Earth, and all of that weight is on her, and it shows on her face. And and I think you could see she's literally in tears as she's considering what everyone is proposing, and the callousness that everyone proposes it about, like whether to have a bunch of 5-ton megaton bombs in a marketing campaign as opposed to one huge 10 megaton bomb, stuff like that. And then making people pay for lanes to get out of to evacuate the city is ridiculous. But I think
let me just jump into that thing for a second. So obviously in the recap, I talked about how some of the decisions Barb had to make were bizarre. Water advertising choice is absurd, but they go even farther with one suggestion that they create a special expressway lane for their premium customers in LA so that they can get to their vaults from their homes in half an hour between when the early warning systems go off and when the landfall of the nuclear weapons happens. So the showrunners are really focused on this absurdity, and it's also a good, is one of those good details. If Vault-Tec thinks that it's powerful enough to have the government sanction a lane for their customers, that just gives you an idea of how in bed the government is with Vault-Tec. But also it's absurd because if the end of the world is happening, first of all, how many people are really going to be paying attention to? It's going to be gridlock. It's LA, right? LA's gridlock on a regular day. So it's the end of the world. It's super gridlock. But then on top of that, who's going to be actually obeying lane traffic laws during the end of the world? So they can sell the idea of the lane to the people, but the lane isn't going to work. Right. So that's what's crazy to me. They are like, we can make money. We're leaving money on the table by not selling a service that we cannot provide. Just like they're selling a service for vaults where they know 30% of them will die of thirst. Right. You know what I mean? It's a scam. But also the whole thing is a scam.
I feel like it's a sharp commentary on the tiered services that we get today nowadays from our service providers and other networks is if they can break out another tier, they will. Absolutely.
I think it's that, and I think it's also a commentary on our technology situation. I mean, my friend just sent me a copy of a tweet on Twitter from 10 years ago where the guy who runs Tesla said that full self-driving would be available in 2 years. So that was 8 years ago. He's like, you'd be able to do whatever you want to do in your car, watch TV, take a nap, whatever, in 2 years. That was supposed to happen 8 years ago. Yeah. And we're 10 years in. Now, anyone who's been following that knows that full self-driving is pretty damn good right now. And maybe this stuff will happen eventually. But it's just that people bought cars 10 years ago, 8 years ago, expecting the functionality to be there. There was this promise, and the promise has not come to fruition. So this idea that the tech companies can sell you a promise. I remember when I bought my first Google Home device, I saw the commercial. This thing was talking to you, telling you all this information. It was super easy. You get that thing in your house, it was slow as choppy. Sometimes it would speak in stutters. It's just the marketing. This is the commentary. The marketing is nonsense. So you just can't tell, which is, why YouTube exists on some level, right? You go for the review more than you go for the marketing. You see how somebody who got their hands on it actually deals with it instead of seeing, what the company says about it. But it's just, to me, they were like underlying this idea that they're going to sell you and they want you to buy, but they don't want to deliver. And so that just feels like a great commentary on where these services are. Hulu used to be free. Now you're paying for ads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, I think to another extent, they market it, but the question is to what extent they can actually deliver it, right? So it's quite frankly, Vault-Tec seems like another product company that's run by the marketers versus the potential engineers. Although there was an engineer, but they showed hey, these are some of the restrictions, some of the limitations we have. But I think really
the marketing team sold this water unit, and then the water unit doesn't work, right?
Right. And they knew it.
I think there's a lot of coming back to another point, it was there's just a lot of apathy, and similar to what we've covered in a lot of the previous episodes, lack of compression, right? Everyone's ignoring the folks in need. They're ignoring the ghoul as well too in his state. It's just course of action.
A little help. All someone had to do was pick up a vial and give it to him.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
But they're walking by and they're like, I can't be bothered. I can't be involved. I don't want to mess with that. And he's asking the dog to help him, like Katara and Sokka asking Momo for water back in Avatar: The Last Airbender season 1. It's just not going to happen. The dog is a dog,
It is an intelligent dog, but it's still a dog.
Yeah, it's a super dog to be sure, but it's still a dog. So, and the thing is, you don't even notice it at first. When those people are walking by, you kind of get it, right?
Yeah.
You kind of get what it's like. I mean, you guys are in Southern California. You've seen people in need before. And part of it is that you don't have, maybe you're in a rush to go where you're going.
Right.
Or maybe there's a safety concern. I mean, the man is a ghoul.
For sure, yeah.
Right. And he's going, every once in a while, he's going, because he's turning feral. Yeah. So, of course you're not going to go over there. So it's just just another statement on our society. I thought was pretty powerful.
I can't remember if before this episode we saw past Betty in
No, that was a treat.
Yeah.
And it was well characterized, because when I think was it last episode? No, it was the episode before that, when Betty and Steph are standing and talking in the inter-vault exchange area.
Mm-hmm.
And the show makes it crystal clear that they've at least met before when they both were as young as Stephanie is now, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But because Betty got out, she's like, I've been doing this for 40 years or whatever, however many decades or whatever, which just goes to show you that the whole cryo chamber, release a person from Vault 31, have them learn and run things. They're living entire lives. And other people are taken out, and they're peers, but they're not, right? That's just, it's a mind job. I mean, like time travel shows are always weird. This is a very concrete way of doing time travel, right? Like you just whatever.
Sure.
But by showing Betty in the past next to Barb, as younger than Barb, like she's a contemporary of Hank. Like Betty and Hank are friends,
Right?
To the point where Betty's like, "Hey, Hank, why don't you? I know you want to do the notes with Robco. Go ahead, take the notes from Robco, right?" That's just crazy.
Right.
It's a crazy thing.
So they're about the same age, and Betty. So Betty and Hank were decanted around the same time because they're about the same age. I
think Betty's a little older, maybe
a little older, but like when Barb finally gets decanted in this series, whenever that happens, she's gonna at some point encounter Betty, and they're gonna be, when they started, maybe Betty was
Barb was older. Yeah, Barb was more senior.
Right?
Now
That's going to be a weird, weird interaction.
That's assuming she's actually in the case. So.
I think she is.
Right. Assuming, they did it. They think that's important distinction, Tosin. Also, it's just another show that the plan for this junior management situation was one that really stratified people on Barb's level from people on Hank's level. So Hank has done all this work to up jump into the into basically the Barb level, right? He's taking that corporate initiative on every level. But yeah.
No. So something I found interesting is Lucy, when she gets to look at herself in the mirror, right? She's really kind of seeing what she has become, all bloodied in her blue suit, versus what her past was and what her past comforts may have been, the yellow dress.
Was she in the yellow dress in a previous episode?
Maybe in the first episode? Maybe in the
no,
she was in a wedding dress.
She had a wedding dress on, and that was very Ready or Not. But
I don't know that I've seen her in the yellow dress.
Well, what's so cool about that dress is that when you see the dress, you get that he wants her to put it on. You get that he wants that somebody, Hank, is like, this is the kind of thing that you should be wearing. Lucy looks at herself in the mirror and she's like, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
This current situation is me. I'm here to bring this guy to justice, even though he's my dad. And I'm covered in blood and one of my fingers is, discolored now.
Right.
It's like a cut off. Like she's happy to be who she is, which is
I was going to cover a little bit of this in big picture, but since we're at it now. So like Hank wants Lucy to go back to the innocence that she was before, but her contemplating herself in the mirror is her saying that that's impossible because she's no longer the person that she was since she left Vault 33, and she realizes that. Hank doesn't realize that. He still thinks that she's his little sugar bomb, and so he's basically living in delusion.
Right,
Hank is a
and isn't that
weirdo?
What he set up, the simulation, that's supposed to look like their kitchen and house, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. And you can imagine Vault-Tec has a lot of the same plans and a lot of the same hardware and a lot of the same whatever. So it probably wasn't too difficult for him. But to just piggyback on what Andy was saying, Hank says, for a second there, I thought the wasteland had changed you.
Yeah.
And it's literally an admission by Hank that he sees Lucy hasn't changed despite her time above the vault. And while I still think that's not true, I feel like Tosin was questioning how different Lucy was. So by one character as prominent as Hank saying, I thought the wasteland had changed you, but it hasn't. That just kind of goes to what Tosin was talking about last week, not seeing enough change in Lucy. And to be fair, she's still chasing justice with Hank. I think the first time you can really see, not the first time, but one of the key times you can see a sort of like practicality change, which is what we've been looking for, right? Like she's in the wasteland, she's got to be more practical, is when she smacks that button.
Right. I mean, she's reluctant. She's reluctant. She has to do it. She didn't want to do it. She held off as long as she could, but she had to admit that basically this is the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, that was the best option given her options. Because those actually was literally putting staples in someone's head.
Right.
Then she slaps the button, and then, that's not what she wanted to do, but what she had to do, which is a different thing than what we've seen Lucy do in the past.
Right.
Yeah, and I think those type of things can change a person. So I'm very interested to see what she becomes in the next episode.
It's post-resurrection Lucy, guys. I'm saying.
We see at the end of this episode when the super mutant brings the ghoul back to his lair, and the super mutant makes an indirect reference to basically the group of people that is on his side, and that they're from the Enclave. So what we get from that is the Enclave still exists after all this time, and now has essentially a mutant army.
Yeah, I mean, like when Lucy meets Siggy Wilzig, the Enclave exists, and that's only been several months.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
So it's just like time is kind of stretched on if you're just watching it. Now, it's also then true that the super mutant sees the ghouls as possibly a resistance army if he can get them together.
Mm-hmm.
But their motivations are obviously very, very different. So, yeah.
I think the super mutant is really interesting that they, are still pulling from the game of Fallout. So the super mutants, right, were humanoid mutants who got exposed to a variety of forced evolution virus, FEV.
Right.
So,
which was brought up in the last episode. So,
yep, exactly.
It's the kind of thing that's we know it's happening to people too. Now, here's my question: are the death claws the product of the Enclave too?
That's a really good question.
It seems like the
that was
Enclave's
my guess is that maybe the Death Claw is a further evolved experiment from the FEV. But
I mean, they clearly wanted you to believe that Cooper was picked up by Deathclaw for the first minute or two.
Yeah.
They used the same. It seemed like they used the same audio growling and all that stuff. Obviously, it was gigantic. The shadows were the same. So they're linking Deathclaw experience to Super Mutant experience on some level. So now you got to wonder, is a Deathclaw a product that just went too far that they can't control? That kind of thing.
Right. Maybe a further evolution of the Super Mutant. Super Mutant, it goes like, human super mutant,
ghoul,
and then
human ghoul super mutant, then
Deathclaw.
Yeah. Because the super mutant was adamant that the ghouls and they were related.
That's right. In this episode, we got Reg trying to rally the Vaulties against Betty, even throwing in the idea that Betty is an outsider coming from Vault 31. So he's using he's basically othering her to get the people in the support group on his side. And it feels to me sort of like the beginning of Civil War that we saw that happened in Vault 32 in season 1. We saw the after effects of that in the blown out Vault 32.
Yeah. Reg says our ancestors put themselves first. So it really sort of leaning in on the, to pull it back to the real world, like, hey, America being the home of the wealthy and the powerful, and those are the ones who get to really decide what happens. But to me, what's also quite interesting is in all of these shows which deal with deal with essentially bunker culture, it always ends up being in some
what other shows are you watching that deal with bunker culture?
Or maybe vault culture. So Apple TV also has another show.
Oh yeah, Silo.
Oh, I don't know this show. Silo.
Oh, Silo's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are civil war occurring in that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, the people always want more, and they expect that other people should be subordinate to them in the way that these shows depict it, right?
Right. And there's always some sort of leadership that wants to maintain control, as we've been kind of talking about for quite many episodes.
There was a show called The 100, which was similar in scope. Post-apocalyptic, the vault, so to speak, was in outer space. And the people running the outer space vault, it was it was like the International Space Station Plus, and they ran out of resources. So they were like, we're going to send people down to Earth, even though it's irradiated. And the whole thing there was, who are they going to send down? So they basically found excuses to deport a whole bunch of people. And they sent 100 kids down because they're like, kids are fine. Kids can adapt to radiation, that kind of thing. So the whole show takes place with that vault culture you're talking about, Tosin, where there's like a dichotomy and people are fighting about who to send down. And eventually one faction wins, sends all these kids down. And then those kids get down there and then they fight amongst themselves. So, yeah.
I don't remember a civil war breaking out amongst the people stuck in the underground bunker in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. So I think that was those guys were suitably propagandized that there was nothing left to do but just be down there and somehow not have babies despite being sex slaves.
They were like the communism and the communists in this show. If you remember those guys disappeared for a while, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That show was man, that show's a mind job. The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Like you're laughing, but it's also so janky, especially because in the real world, some of these things have actually happened, and like it's kind of hard to like, ugh.
Yeah, I never saw it.
It's fun.
I mean, it's a good show. It was on Netflix for a while. It was good.
It's from the creator of Tina Fey, who did 30 Rock. So if you like 30 Rock, you'll like Kimmy Schmidt.
The acting is great.
I was interested in the fact that when Barb is confronted by Siggy Wilzig in the elevator, that he seems to know all of her movements. So, like, I think for me...
Game over, man. Game over.
Yeah. So he basically, he threatens her by proxy from his boss, whoever his boss is.
Someone's controlling him, but she's led to believe that he's controlling her, or she's either like he's the guy in charge or he's an agent of the people in charge. But either way, I'm a cog in the machine. If I don't do what they want me to do, they will find someone else. If they find someone else, the only leverage I have is taking care of my kid and my husband, and I'll lose that. And so who wouldn't be motivated, right?
Right. But it essentially means that Barb's every move is being watched as well.
Yeah.
Which
it always feels like somebody's watching me.
Right. Which we saw in the previous episode. We saw that Cooper's all of Cooper's moves were being watched by Robert House.
And although he was in his casino, and that's kind of a
no, because it was not only that, but it was like when Cooper was out in the field in the mech suits, he was being monitored by House as well.
That's right. Good. That's right. House was using some sort of surveillance to see through the same cameras that the mech suit had. Yeah.
So he knew all of his moves, and yet he wasn't aware of all of Barb's moves, and yet Barb, all of her moves are being watched by ostensibly the Enclave. So we've got people who are watching
AI to, take a look at all that to go through all that footage and share.
People who are watching both Cooper and Barb, yet they may not be aware that they're watching each other.
Yeah, totally. All right, so I gotta say, you guys heard about All Quiet on the Western Front? Hank brings it up with Lucy. Yeah, so that's a book. I had to read that in high school. It was pretty stressful. But it's by this guy named Eric Maria Morak. It's about 100 years old at this point, that book. And it's a novel about youths fighting on World War I on behalf of their kings, right? So young men are dying at the whims of old men. It ends with the protagonist. I mean, it's 100 years old, so I'm going to spoil it.
Spoilers.
It ends with the protagonist. Yeah, right. Like you can't have spoiler reviews after 100 years. But Paul, the protagonist, he's German. It's World War I, not World War II. So there's no Nazi stuff or whatever. But it's all for Empire. And Paul gets shot by a sniper, despite the Western Front being considered a quiet theater of war. And Paul was the last of his school friends to die in the war, and the only one left, right? And if you're Hank, you're kind of like, I'm like one of the last guys from management that's out here trying to get to Redemption Day or Reclamation Day or whatever it is. So you can see why he's tied to that. But one of the things he says to Lucy is that these people are all fighting. And this is a very American take, I just want to say. And these people are fighting. And Hank is like, these people are effectively the same people. And they're just fighting each other for no good reason. Now, that's not totally true. I mean, the sameness of the people is actually quite interesting because, well, I think the various societies, like if you look back at World War One, the Germans considered themselves a separate race from the English and the Nordics. Like it was a very different time than where we live today. But what was interesting is that all the kings fighting in World War One, they were all related. They were all like the grandchildren of Queen Victoria of England, like literally. They were literally her grandchildren. She had so many kids that basically everybody in Europe got to pick a kid to marry to their kid. So all these people were the grandchildren. They were all cousins. Right. And they're fighting and, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of their citizens are dying so they can one up their own cousins. So Hank has a point in that, like, they're all fighting for no good reason, right? I don't think they're all the same because I do think there's a difference between like Belgians and Germans and French people and all that stuff. But they were fighting for no good reason. They were killing each other for no good reason. And Hank takes that and he throws that at the wasteland and says, these people are killing each other for no good reason. Now, there's extremes, right? So like you look at New Vegas, there are plenty of people living their lives in New Vegas, you know, with the exception of maybe killing the apothecary and stuffing his body into a what's it called, a garbage can. People seem to be getting along in there, but when you get to the whole Legion situation or the New California Republic fighting the Legion or whoever, then it's different factions fighting for control of the wasteland. What's interesting to me though is he's sitting there talking about how people are fighting for no good reason. Meanwhile, he destroyed the New California Republic with a nuclear weapon.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So he's not a reliable narrator. And we just got to remember that Hank is nuts.
Right. But also, like, and I feel like we're bleeding into big picture territory here, but that's fine. It's also like we have to go back to like Hank's previous. He previously professed that essentially factions are bad and he wants to eliminate all the factions so that there's only one faction left, which is the Vaulties, Vault-Tec.
He wants peace through war, basically. Yeah. He's like, I want to wipe everybody out so there's just us.
Exactly.
But the problem is that just us doesn't work.
Right.
But even the just us doesn't work because Lucy's mom was a Vaultie, right? She was granted, I think she was an immigrant or whatever, but she was a Vaultie and she ran away. Lucy is a Vaultie.
Sands. Yep.
Right. Lucy's a Vaultie. She doesn't fit in. Norm is a Vaultie. He didn't fit in.
Yeah.
And it seems like Chet's a Vaultie that doesn't fit in either.
Yes.
Right?
And as we've seen with Vault 32, even Vaulties fight amongst each other and create civil war. And create factions.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, if you're going to play the status game, then you're going to end up with people wanting more status, which is like why you have a club about people who are inbred wanting the status to have a snack time or whatever. And people are trying to get in, but they're like not allowed in, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, he says it's ironic. To feel safe, we have to hurt people, right? To feel safe, we need to have control. And the byproduct of having control ultimately always boils down to other people who are against you getting hurt or put in compromised situations. And that's really weird. A story as old as time, isn't it?
Kind of. I mean, I don't know that. I think maybe that's Hank's view of it, but I feel like that's not humanity's view of it. There have been plenty of cases where people were minding their own business and then other people just showed up and started killing them, you know, because they wanted to take stuff. They want to take their land. They want to take their resources. They want to take their stuff. It's not like they're just constantly people who are gearing up to fight. Like World War I that isn't quite on the Western Front, that is definitely an example of multiple countries, you know, arms races, who has more machine guns, that kind of thing. That was definitely a real situation, a la what Hank is talking about. But the vast majority of human suffering happened because people were minding their own business and someone came and took their stuff. At least that's my view. And there are plenty of examples of that, right? Like
Yeah.
Native Americans were just chilling, and then people showed up and just took their shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, I think it's that control aspect, but
The control the control there.
Yeah, but maybe part of it could also be by setting up your enemy or by, I guess, the people in charge setting up your enemy as the other.
Right.
You can kind of make those who are not in line feel unsafe, and therefore that's the way of
you can
manipulating
consolidate power by consolidate power by creating an enemy, right? You can say, you guys got to listen to me because those people over there, they're going to come at us regardless of our differences. So we better get in line with one another.
Fear, uncertainty, doubt.
No.
Yeah. Fear, uncertainty, doubt. FUD, FUD.
Mm-hmm. All right, and so like the next point is like you see this situation where Lucy strolls out onto the Vault Tech like assembly floor. It's really like the office, but everyone is assembling the little remote control devices there, and
in like concert, in like a dance of like
totally
unison, like they're like
in perfect harmony with each other.
Thank you, perfect harmony. Yeah, exactly.
And you get like they're not like completely robots because you get the situation where Lucy is got Hank at knife point and everyone is like a little shocked to see it, and Hank has to sort of like reassure them, and then Lucy says, I'm opening the doors and you guys can go if you want to, and they're like, but do we have to? Because we kind of like it here. So they prefer the security of their captivity, and I think it really.
I mean, who needs freedom when you have prosperity?
Well, it brings up in this show, I think it brings up an interesting point about. I feel like all of us have the desire to be free over the desire for captivity and security, but like I think they're asking is captivity in peace and harmony better than free will with conflict? And
not only conflict and poverty, right?
Yeah, conflict and poverty, like absolute guaranteed conflict in the wasteland, and these people are living a peaceful existence. However,
they're getting 3 square meals.
Yeah.
They're getting all that stuff. So this is also a little bit of what Thaddeus was trying to explain to Dane. Dane was like, this place is for the birds. We got to destroy this place. And Thaddeus is like, I've been out there, Dane. This is as good as it gets.
Right.
So we got to fix this and make this work for everybody else. So there is that conflict of, if they're going to give me this peace and security, what do I, why I got to fight? Also, we got to realize that when the snake oil salesman, the first person that he converted with this automated man computer, that person was a willing participant.
Right.
He wanted to give up everything that he had, forget everything that he had, knowing that he'd keep his motor skills, he'd keep his base personality, but he wanted to give it up. And so when Hank is like, I found these people everywhere.
Yeah.
Is he finding, I think the question is, and we're not in questions right now, but the question is he finding more people who want to forget everything that they've ever known in order to do whatever? And they're not really even forgetting. Maybe he's innovated because this person was a murderer and this person was, fighting with this other person, that kind of thing. So maybe he's reminded them of that. Or maybe
we saw with the
2 Romans.
Yeah,
right?
with the
Legion,
with the Legionnaire and the NCR guy at each other. They were not willing. They were not willing participants, and when left to their own devices, they'd kill each other.
Well, I think they might have been willing to get the machine put on them, but when left to their own devices and seeing one another, like if I put you in front of your enemy, you're going to fight them. But if I am talking to you by myself and I'm like, hey, I have a way for you to live a better life, Because the NCR and the Legion, they're not great lives, right? Like you can get your head cut off at any moment.
But it felt like the last time, because we saw that NCR guy before, and it felt like the last time that we saw him, he seemed to be pretty content being in the NCR.
Yeah, with the squirrel.
He was with the squirrel. I mean, like it was not a great life. He was all that's left of the NCR. So when Hank is like, "Hey man, do you want to join my little situation? I'll give you 3 square meals and something to do. You'll be around a whole bunch of other people. It'll be safe. You won't be in the army anymore." I just say that there's a scenario where he decided to give up on being a remnant of the NCR.
Maybe all of these people gave up their freedom willingly.
Because we know that if you don't give up your freedom, your head explodes. They established that. I mean, unless Hank figured out a way, right? The only person we saw get converted successfully without exploding was someone who's like, yes, please. Yes, please. Like, take this burden of freedom away from me because I have not been making the good decisions. And then suddenly Hank is like, I got it. And that dude is doing... Then Hank is sending that guy to talk on his behalf to his daughter and all that stuff. He's in like direct communication with him, all that stuff. So I'm just saying the established record. And remember, the show's really good at establishing things. They talked about the forced evolutionary virus, and then here we are with the super mutants, right?
I think I need more data points though to connect.
Yeah. I mean, it could also just be folks who are down on their luck.
I mean, maybe it's. I mean, but people who are down on their luck, on their luck, are like, yeah, take me in. That's what I'm saying. The only other option I could see is that people who have been exposed to the wasteland can handle it better than people who were just like asleep in the vault.
I need more data points to make that correlation.
The big thing that Hank seemed to do, when he got the snake oil salesman, it wasn't like, oh, look at your exposure levels. Like the show didn't do that. They didn't write that in the show. Look at your radiation levels. Maybe we can get something. Maybe that'll work. They instead focused. They only have so much time, and they chose to focus on the idea that this man was like, I will happily give up all my memories and my will so that for this thing.
Snake oil salesman's kind of a weirdo.
Yeah, but these other guys, he's picking up the dregs. The murderers, the fighting tribes people, the deserters from possibly NCR and the Legion, right?
I'm going to hold out judgment.
It's not a comfortable thought that all those people are, in fact, giving up on their freedom.
It is not
a comfortable thought.
They're just all not rich, I guess.
Right. So, I mean, like, being a good person could be tied to being rich.
I'm definitely gonna, since you brought this up and it's something to consider, I'm definitely gonna put a pin in this and see if maybe it bears out over the next couple of episodes.
Sure, yeah.
So speaking of Hank, right? Throughout this episode, he kind of seems like he's trying to look for his redemption arc.
Oh,
in the things he's doing.
Reaching, man. He's reaching for redemption.
He is, in fact, from what he's told us, he's following Mr. House's wishes, and perhaps Mr. House isn't as bad of a player as we were led to believe per the last episode, given that there's a whole nother syndicate that's in charge, right?
They're both coots. Hank and Mr. House are coots. They're crazy. They're nuts.
But crazy doesn't necessarily mean bad, right?
Evil. You're right. Crazy is not evil.
Evil. Yes.
That's true. But I think Hank isn't looking for redemption from Mr. House. Hank is looking for redemption from Lucy.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely wants her validation.
Thank you. Yeah, he's like, validation is what I'm looking for. In fact, hey, honey, why don't you just perp walk me past all these people? Look. They're appalled that you put a scissors to my neck.
But look, also...
They want to be here. Look at all this chaos without me. Don't you think I should stay here? Don't you want to stay with me and stop the chaos? Look, we've made a whole new vault with these people. Like, he's looking for redemption.
But also, I feel like he did that deliberately because he knew that he would be able to...
engineer a situation that would make her sympathetic.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that all that manipulation... and calling her sugar bomb. I mean, you got kids. You want to convince them. Like, people manipulate their kids. Don't you want to try this celery instead of that Twix? I just feel like that's where he was at. But yeah, I mean, this guy is obviously. I mean, Andy, you wanted to check out what was going on with this. We'll get into the chip that was inside him. He's a true believer. But before we get there, Tosin, what did you want to say about what was going on with this the family matters?
Yeah, I mean, everything here is family. Family matters. It could be Carl's Winslow or it could be Vin Diesel, but Cooper here, motivated by his daughter. And
if Reginald Vell Johnson showed up in the final movie for Fast and Furious, because he was driving that car in Die Hard, right? He was driving.
Yeah.
He went over that berm. He was like, yeah. I'm just saying. Reginald Vell Johnson, I'd love to see him in Fast and Furious. But anyway, you were saying family.
Yeah, Cooper family. Motivated by his daughter, an attempt to remove himself from the rod, right? And this is, in fact, Cooper's wife Barb had asked if he wouldn't have made the same sacrifice for Janie, right, his daughter.
Right, and he didn't get it at that moment. He didn't get it.
Right, and perhaps he started getting it once he's trying to pull himself off. Hank, as well, claims what he did was for family and is, as we just noted, is allowing his daughter to persecute him as well too, right?
Dads and their daughters, man. Oh, you give me chills, Tosin.
They're giving you chills or giving you heartburn?
I mean, maybe it's a little bit of both, but dads and their daughters, you're right. There's a lot of emotions there that easily explained. You can easily see how these characters are motivated when it comes to these dads and their daughters.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that we see in this episode that Hank himself was the courier of the cold fusion chip. Like, it was inside his head, which, this predates.
Who said that you should carry that shit in your head? Like,
I mean, it's in a capsule, so maybe it's safe. But it in this situation, it predates. We've seen that before with the Siggy Wilzig putting the cold fusion chip in his head, but chronologically, this predates that. So I'm wondering,
this is like the term of art. This is like the way that you carry a cold fusion diode. You put it in your lower temple thing area in your base of your skull. I just don't that's another absurd thing about the show. They're just so when you open it up, you've got the super syringe. Yeah. And people are gonna be like, what do I do with this? And then Bob's like, I know what to do with it. And he shoves it in his head and pulls it out. I was like, okay, I guess that's secure in a way.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of I don't know if you've ever heard of Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah, Johnny Mnemonic, absolutely. That was kind of like the spiritual movie version of Neuromancer.
Right. So, in that story, in that book and story, the courier basically uses his own brain as the storage device, and basically, if you filled up. If you overloaded it, then you could end up killing yourself, killing your own brain because it's too overloaded with data. But in this case, it's a physical data, the cold fusion chip being inside the head. But I wonder.
It tells us a lot about Hank's character, right? So we've known that Hank is truly a believer of Vault-Tec, and then he's a fan of Mr. House. He's a company man. But the idea that he'd sacrifice his own body to hold an experimental diode so that he could give it from his company to Robert House is crazy. It's also one of those things where, he didn't have to carry around the super syringe on a handcuffed case in his hand.
Because we assumed that the case was going to contain the cold fusion
something
chip.
Special, yeah. But then the dude opens it up without a key.
Yeah.
Usually when you have a handcuffed case, you got to have keys, maybe two different people have to turn keys at the same time. We've seen all that stuff. He just cracks it open. He's like, what the hell is this? And it takes his wife walking in there to be like, what is this nonsense you're doing?
So it makes me wonder if the fact that Siggy Wilzig does this chronologically later on, but we've seen it earlier,
I think this is the way you do it.
So this is like
This
the
is the way you
standard
safely
way
travel with it.
I see.
Yeah, and I also think that Siggy did it almost reluctantly. He's like, I gotta get this thing out of here. What's a good way to hide it? I can't, like in a movie 30 years ago, he would have put it in a capsule up his backside. But,
right.
We're not doing that. So he did it this way. So I feel like that's how he wanted to. That's how they managed it. But I really feel as if this was a very surprising turn of events for Hank, but it also lets you know that not only is he a company man, he's actually not a Vault-Tec company man. He's a Robco company man on some level.
Right.
He wanted to be in the meeting with Robco. He wanted to carry the fusion diode for Robco.
Oh.
He was a grown-up.
That's a good point.
He gets away from his daughter. He destroys Moldaver and all that stuff. He gets and the first thing he does is he gets on he starts broadcasting, looking for.
He's trying. He's pledging allegiance to Robert House.
Exactly. He's Robert House's man, or he wants to be. Right. He's an acolyte of House, and he got into. It's almost like he got into Vault-Tec because that's where he could get in to brush arms or whatever the phrase is with House. But he's a House man.
Yeah, you know what I found interesting about the scene of Hank telling us about each of his employees in quotes. It reminded me of this anime called Death Note, where the main character Light gets to kind of write in a notebook and has this power to. He writes in this book or journal with the power to kill people. Right, if your name is put in the Death Note, you'll die. There's more details around it, but I won't spoil it for those who choose to watch the anime, which is good. TV series, not that great. Live action TV series. But anyway, it brings up that big question of who actually gets to make the decisions on who lives or dies or what their life becomes. Who should be this tries to play this god, and it ends up being his undoing. And so I wonder what's going to happen here.
Dude, so I'm glad you rolled with that, because that's kind of what I think this episode is about. Who gets to decide who gets to be, who doesn't, who's good and who's bad. And I feel like Thaddeus is out there talking about, hey, let's sell this diode. And Maximus is like, no, I want to give it to somebody good. And Thaddeus is effectively being good is for the rich, right? So he says, yeah, I would be a good person too if I grew up on a mountain of food and supplies and some cozy, impenetrable home. Wouldn't look like this, that's for sure. Wouldn't have to steal and stab and fib all the goddamn time just to get by. But if we sell it, guess what? Then we'll be rich. And we'll have the means to be one of those good people you're talking about. Because I've seen a lot of things, crazy things. But good people? No. So when Maximus says that Lucy is good, Thaddeus is she's good because she didn't have to suffer. Right?
Right.
Which is a pretty taboo thing in our society. So one of the things about America, because this whole show is you even heard Ridge say, we're still in America, right? This country had something different than other countries when it first started, right? One of the things about this country is back in ancient England, right? If you were, Lord Norfolk and you betrayed the king, then your son was guilty of betraying the king too. It went down the line. But one of the things that we don't have in our society is the idea that the son is not responsible for the sins of the father, right? And it sounds okay, that's random. But if you think about that, right? Ultimately, in this case, that means that a good person can happen despite the fact that their parents or their group was terrible, right? And that's what's happening with Lucy. Her father is terrible, and he secured a future for her by being terrible, and she's good. And Thaddeus is actually making an argument that the only reason she's good is because she comes from people who did bad things, right? Mm-hmm. Which is kind of a crazy idea. It's kind of taboo in our society to think about that, right? You could think about it in terms of most of the people in the U.S. consider themselves to be good, law-abiding. They live in houses. Maybe your parents help you buy their house. They didn't do anything wrong. But we have to remember the reason that we have all these things is because a long time ago, someone took land from native people, right? So it's saying that Lucy is nice and good because she picked her parents well and not because she arrived at this goodness through her own merit. It's unearned goodness, right? And at some level, that's a boon to the way that Thaddeus thinks of Maximus, right? Now, Maximus is a person who's good despite all that he's been through. while others like Quintus and even Thaddeus himself are just looking for wealth and power, right? So that's an interesting thing. Now, granted, Maximus counters with, I grew up in the New California Republic. I remember good people. And from what we've seen, the New California Republic was kind of this interesting cooperative. We don't know its sins, right? Like, we don't know what it did to get its land or to get like whatever. We never saw that. All we see of it is this kind of idyllic space where Maximus's dad was figuring out how to get water, and like suddenly these bad guys came and blew up his spot. Remember that? So I feel like this idea that Lucy isn't actually good, but in fact she's only good because she was raised with all these things, so she knows what she's supposed to do to be nice, is pretty interesting. I also think that one of the things about Lucy, if you're going to actually talk about Lucy and not just like kind of how she was raised, is that, everybody in the vault was exposed to what Lucy was exposed to, right? Like, you see her in classes as a kid. You guys remember those scenes where she was in classes as a kid with other people, like Taekwondo or whatever? You remember those? Yeah. So she's in those classes and she excels at all of them. So yes, she did have like food and an impenetrable home and supplies and all that stuff. Yeah. But you have other people like Reg, who grew up just like Lucy grew up. And he's out there being like, I want my snacks. I don't care who it hurts. So then we have to wonder, like, Thaddeus is looking at it through one lens, but we've seen more of it as users. So maybe Lucy is in fact good, right? And like if you explore that a little bit, like Vault 33 has all these issues. Betty's trying to do the right thing, right? Good governance that conserves people's need to drink water so they don't eat healthy, like, salty snacks. And Reg is using populism to feed the idea that he's going to give people what they want, kind of satiating their human nature. And Betty says that you don't get extra rations because of who your parents were, because of inbreeding, right? Because there's an inbreeding club. Right. And Reg literally counters with, actually, this is still America, so yes, you do get extra rations because of who your parents were. We're all down here because of who our parents were. Your ancestors put themselves first, and you know what? It worked out for them and for us, and I'm not ashamed of that anymore. And that is like a super telling thing. That goes back to this idea that, you have stuff from the people who came before you, picking your parents effectively. Like, what you have is basically how you pick your parents. Reg is saying that by being, self-centered or being like focused. I mean, we saw that one guy in the vault who left his family behind. He left his wife, he left his daughter. So that he could afford his vault space. Right. And then he was the first person Hank tried the stuff out on, exploded his brain and didn't care, because from Hank's perspective, you take care of your family first. From Barb's perspective, you take care of your family first. And even from Reg's perspective, you take care of your family first. Whereas you got Maximus out there and he's like, I just want to take care of the world, and whether it's through the Brotherhood or some other means, I want to take care of the world. So that's like an interesting way of looking at it. Like Lucy and Maximus, they don't fit into this kind of human nature paradigm that we're always told that people are going to do what they want to do to be selfish. They're not there, right? So,
but I'm not hating on Thaddeus, because I feel like
I'm not going to hate on Thaddeus. No, I just think he's seeing what he's seeing from his perspective.
Right. And in Maximus and Lucy's experience, they come from privilege, and I think in some cases they recognize it. In Thaddeus, he specifically did not come from privilege, but I don't think
he's hustling.
But I don't think he even realizes he doesn't realize the stuff that he was neglected. He just sees the world in these binary terms of like good and evil. Because he's had to struggle his whole life, he doesn't understand that the people, that the quote unquote good people he's placing a judgment on what Maximus has told him are the people who had the privilege of coming from privilege, and Thaddeus didn't.
Yeah, I feel like the thing here is that the privileges that Maximus and Lucy had growing up are things that they remember, and they say, look, if we do things a certain way, we can all have that. Whereas Thaddeus and Reg are like, they're coming from different angles, those two, obviously.
Yes.
But Thaddeus is basically like, they're good because they had all this money. And Lucy and Maximus are like, we had all these resources for a minute, but we think that more people can have them. And on some weird level, Hank thinks that too. Hank is like, I can save humanity.
Yes.
They just have to listen to what I say.
But everyone else has to just get out of the way. It has to be destroyed.
If everyone just does what I say, we'll be fine.
Right. If we limit it to just the humanity that is the Vault-Tec Vaulties, then yes, I can save humanity.
Right. But what's also interesting about that is like, he's like, if everyone listens to what I say, we'll be fine. But Lucy, who's a chip off the old block on some level, she's not like, nuclear bombing people and shoving like cyborg implants into their necks.
Yeah.
But she's also like, hey guys, just listen. Just listen and we can figure this out. Like she's with the, what's it called? The Legion guys.
Yeah.
And she's like, just listen. I know we can figure this out. Whereas Maximus is more like, realpolitik. I got to kill this dude or else he's going to kill these kids. So I feel like they're trying to create a recipe for the kinds of characters that could possibly save this world.
But again, I think Lucy and Maximus are both arriving from a perspective of how they were raised. Lucy...
They don't know how the sausage was made. I think Maximus knows how the sausage was made. Lucy doesn't know how the sausage was made, right? Yeah. And I think that's part of why Thaddeus is like, she didn't know how the sausage was made.
Yeah, and Thaddeus for sure knows how the sausage is made because he's been in the kitchen all of his life watching the sausage get made.
Exactly, and giving it to other people, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So you end up with this world where Reg also knows how the sausage is made. In his view, the sausage is made by just being better. Like our parents were better, so we're better. Right. So we deserve this, even if it means we're going to starve ourselves to death. Right.
Which I don't believe is going to happen. He's like, yes, and yes, privilege, and that's the way it should be.
Exactly. But it's also like this idea of like, it's all about me and what I want. Is interesting because when you get to the super mutant, who also wants a better world, a world free of the Enclave, which he thinks is the big bad. He's like, hey, Ghoul, let's get together and solve this problem. And the Ghoul's like, nah. Thanks for healing me, but no thanks. And the dude's like, and the Ghoul's like, I've been in the wasteland. He says, I've been wastelanding for 200 years. Whatever it is I got to do, I do it alone. And the super mutant's like, how's that working out for you? That's a funny question because clearly he saved the Ghoul's life. But 200 years is a pretty damn good run, But the Ghoul was alone pretty much the whole time until he met up with Lucy and they became, Doctor Who and Clara.
Right.
He was, and the thing is, with Lucy, he's realizing that things don't have to be the way he thinks they need to be. So he's being approached by both Lucy to team up and by the super mutant to team up. And that's the thing. Obviously, the Ghoul has a big role to play in how the world's going to end up. And the thing is, the super mutant's like, I'm not going to give up on you. I'm not going to like show you all our shit because you don't want to be a part of us. Which was like naive, right? I saved your life. You should be a part of us. Yeah. When it comes to someone who's 200 years old, that's kind of naive. Now, when it comes to Maximus and Thaddeus and Dane, they were found as children, and they're like, yeah, I'll join the Brotherhood. You want to give me food? Sure. Right. But when it comes to the Ghoul, he's like, I'm not interested. But the super mutant's not giving up on him. He's like, maybe he'll come back, whatever. Yeah. We need strong people for our fundamental fight against the Enclave.
I'm curious I guess that was interesting. How that'll play out.
Right. I mean, if there's going to be a season 3, maybe the Enclave is going to be the big conflict that gets everybody together. But
I think we're going to see it play out even sooner than that. I think we're going to see it play out before the end of this season.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I really wanted to see like more Brotherhood stuff, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I guess we'll say that it was good to see that Thaddeus was asking this question, right? Is she good because she had stuff growing up? Is Maximus good because he had stuff growing up? And I think part of it for both of them was that they're kind of on the good side. They want the world to be better because they've seen a better world. That's where I landed. Regardless of how you get there, they've seen a better world, so they want the world to be better for everybody, even if that's naive.
It is a little naive, I think, and I think maybe the reality is a little closer to Thaddeus and the Ghoul, but we'll see. I mean, we're clearly in a gray area where there is
exactly where the show should be, right?
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, I rest my case.
Speaking, and a great case it was. So speaking of the super mutants, I've got some unanswered questions, and the first is right off the bat: who is this super mutant?
It's Ron Perlman.
Well, it's Ron Perlman on the technical side. The super mutant is played
to play
by
a mysterious person
Ron
in a
Perlman.
sci-fi or fantasy thing.
Yeah,
call Ron Perlman.
And Ron Perlman, by the way, narrated Fallout New Vegas, so this was a nice callback of folding him back into the Fallout universe.
Totally, and his voice is fantastic.
Absolutely, he was the Beast. Yeah. Remember that show? That short-lived show, Beauty and the Beast,
written by George R.R. Martin.
Was it really?
Who decided that he, when the show got canceled, he decided he would write a story. That he was fed up with television. He was a television writer. He decided he would write a story that was so incredible and so fantastic it could never be on television because the special effects would never exist, and it was going to be deep and focused on multiple characters and their perspectives. And then 25 years later, Game of Thrones airs. Also, George R.R. Martin.
I had no idea that was written by George R.R. Martin, but I'll take your word for it. That's kind of a little amazing little thing there. Tosin, do you have an unanswered question?
Yeah, it's just more of a one that I think about is would, at a point Lucy's getting kind of choked to death, would Hank have intervened, or would he have just let it continue? Or maybe he just assumed his daughter is strong enough to get away.
That was interesting. She was. I think that Hank, he wants to see Lucy persevere, but he doesn't want her to die. Which is why when she's all unconscious and shit, he's like, "Hey, honey, let me come get her. You've passed the test. Let me come get you."
It's tough love, I think, a little bit.
Right. Kind of like Quintus and Maximus almost dying in the arena with that dude, and he's like, "Oh, you survived, good."
And the other question I had in this episode is that where did Woody disappear to? And don't say the severed floor.
Yeah, I don't know where Woody is. I mean, this Steph, she's not exactly like buff. She'd have to use some sort of subterfuge to convince him. But he's kind of like a easy to lead dude. You can lead him into like a trap door. Like if you saw Woody show up in Jabba's like council room, you'd know that Woody was totally gonna fall into the hole with the
what was that creature's name?
Oh man, not the Ragnar, but something like that.
I almost said Ragnar too, because we're on the same page.
Yeah, it's like Woody's easy bait, so it's not surprising. The fact that the vaults are not full of that many people, so the fact that Woody's missing is crazy. But they did a good job of explaining that he really was missing, because they're like, I don't even like playing that game, but I play it because of Woody, because I like Woody, and he's not here. So we know that there's something afoot. And I don't know, maybe Steph's got an automated man computer and she's fitted it to Woody's neck. We'll see.
The internet says it's the Rancor.
Rancor. So I said Ragnar. It is the Rancor. Okay. Yeah. We were close. Ragnar is a Norwegian name from 1,200 years ago. No one uses that name anymore.
All right, let's get into the technical aspects. This is where we talk about some of the behind-the-scenes elements we enjoyed in this episode: music, acting, visual effects. I think that Lisa Joy was the perfect person to direct this episode in light of her experience in Westworld. I saw her while watching this episode. I mean, I think maybe I was a little biased because I knew she directed this episode, but I saw her fingerprints all over this episode while I was watching it. We saw in this episode,
they should have made the episode out of stainless steel so she wouldn't have fingerprints all over.
We saw robotic humanoids struggling with free will.
Mm-hmm.
We saw this seamless editing between flashback and modern day scenes, which we've seen in Westworld season 1. And we see a female protagonist who has to confront someone she once thought as benevolent and now is menacing, which again, like Dolores and the Man in Black in Westworld season 1.
That's true. It's all good stuff. Yeah, Lisa Joy was really getting it done. It was such a intricately done episode.
Yeah,
there was just so much to it. So
a lot of stuff, and so smoothly done too. And I love, like, she took the time in this episode to like lean on the whole Busby Berkeley choreography here with both with the Vault Tech Las Vegas office sequence with the office workers there, like coordinated handing each other the pieces, the components, and then
at the what's it called, the club
fantasy
meeting
in the inbreeding support group meeting with that little.
He's got a feel for Reg. She's so pathetic.
Yeah. The scene where the remote controlled legionnaires were menacingly walking down the hallway and Lucy was hiding from them.
Hosts in Westworld.
Totally right. Tell me that didn't feel like any scene from Westworld.
Now I'm recalling it. It's like, that's totally a scene from Westworld.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, the super mutant in this episode was played by Ron Perlman, who narrated Fallout New Vegas.
All right, so for me, the big thing, and I you guys should chime in here. We talked about it a little bit before, but the fact that Barb is both steady while also being disgusted
in that
was
prologue.
Incredible.
Yeah.
In the cold open, like despite all the awful decisions that she's forced to make, she's motivated by the fact that her family is going to be quote unquote taken care of because of her position at Vault-Tec.
Yeah.
So I think in that moment, this one actress moves the story a little out of the allegory of shareholder first corporate society critiques into this allegory of like the way the U.S. is so individualistic, which we talked about earlier, that it's not about country first, it's about family first. So Barbara's taking care of her family, which is a great thing, but it's in large part because she wants to be able to like sleep at night. She's like, I'm doing everything I can for my family, regardless, come what may, with everybody else.
She's Hank,
like, what about
Hank Hilling or Hank? Sorry. Not Hank Hill.
I was gonna say I'm thinking about propane here.
No, Walter White. I don't know.
Walter Whiting.
I don't know where Hank Hill came from. Walter White. She's Walter Whiting.
Right. So she's like, Cooper's like, what about other mothers and other daughters? And she's like, I can't care about them. I got to care about mine. So. But I mean, that was just it was incredible work.
Props to Frances Turner, who is the actor that plays Barb Howard.
We need to see her in more stuff. She's just fantastic. She like the grace that she has on screen while also being appalled. And then when she walks into the room and just grabs the super syringe from her like gap, her husband's mouth is agape, and then she shows him what the hell's going on.
She's a force to be reckoned with.
And it's a quiet storm with her.
All right, let's talk about some ephemera, links, and extra textual connections that will help enhance your enjoyment of this episode. And I mentioned it before. We mentioned it before. All Quiet on the Western Front is name checked in this episode. That's a Eric Maria Remarque book. And I'll also mention that there was a fantastic movie adaptation made in 2022 by Edward Berger, and it's on Netflix and worth checking out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, there are a few adaptations over the years with this particular book. The book came out in 1929, which is why I said it was about 100 years old. It's also worth noting that if you have a chance, so it takes place during World War I, which is not a war that we talk about very often in our society.
A lot of you are a big fan of that. I don't
know if I'm a fan.
Not a fan. A
historical admirer.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
I have a bit of a fascination because, you think about most of our history with kings and queens and all this stuff. World War I is when that ended. The reason why we have, the U.S. had a president for a long time. 250 years this year, but World War I is where most of the kings and queens of the world of Europe, of like fairy tale Europe, were either sidelined by parliaments. That is to say, they're still here. There's a king of Denmark, but he doesn't really have the power. Or they were just removed, like in, Germany. Like there's just no more Kaiser, no more, right? And the Ottoman Empire becomes Turkey. Like there's these big moves that happen. So one of the things about this war is if you have a chance and you want to understand like what a war would be like back then in like 1914, 1917, there is a film called 1917, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And that it's basically a day in the life of the soldiers of this time, which is a lot about what All Quiet on the Western Front is. It's about the life of a soldier, the mundane parts, the frightening parts, the exciting parts. It's also covered visually in Downton Abbey, of all things, because Downton Abbey is about aristocrats, and after the war, the aristocratic nature of England changes. Mm-hmm. But if you have an hour and a half and you want to see some truly riveting cinema regarding this period, check out 1917.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another piece of ephemera, I mentioned Death Note. It's a Japanese manga that I mentioned you can check out, or you can also check out the 37-episode anime TV series. It starts out pretty strong.
It was on Netflix for a while, right?
There was a live action adaptation.
There was a live action that was on Netflix. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, don't do that.
Yeah. But the anime or manga are probably good things to cite. For a period of time, I believe it was also actually banned in the U.S. and other countries.
Interesting.
Yes.
Why?
I think mainly because, the dark themes, right? Young viewers with this concept of writing names in a notebook, causing death. Probably similar how in similar vein how Battle Royale was banned for a period of time, right?
Oh, really?
It involved kids and death and
Wow, it's weird because like Lord of the Flies is definitely a thing. So you can check out Death Note on streaming. The 2006 anime, right? It's one season, and you can check it out on Netflix and Prime Video and Hulu, and even Tubi with ads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it may also be on Crunchyroll too if you have a subscription.
Crunchyroll's so good. It's like the one streamer that I have to not have right now.
And that is going to do it for this episode of Vault 33. I'm going to go around the table. I'll start with you, Dwayne, and ask, where can people find your work on the internet when you're not talking about Fallout on Prime?
You can always check out what I'm up to on Blue Sky. Just Dwayne D. Tosin, what about you?
Yeah, you can also find me on a Blue Sky. I am Toast4321. What about yourself, Andy?
You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Mr. Babyman. That's my social media handle across a bunch of social media sites. Our Twitter and Blue Sky handle for the show is Fallout Vault 33. We're on all the podcast major distribution networks. Add us, tell your friends, and join us next time when we cover the 7th episode of Fallout Season 2, entitled The Handoff, which is the second to the last episode, I think.
Yeah.
Until then, please tweet us, leave a comment on iTunes, and until next time, the vault is closed.
Thanks, guys.
Why don't you call out to the Fallout back to